From LALATE News headquarters in Santa Monica, this is Mornings LALATE.
It's a big morning of Mornings LALATE with your fourth stimulus check update of 2021, direct and live from Santa Monica, California, this big, bold, beautiful day. In this recording, we'll go over the incredible great details of a recon that is going to get passed in the House of Representatives per a deal last night. Did you not catch the deal? I'll explain to you what happened. A deal has been reached with the vote on the recon being confirmed or rubber stamped in just a few days. There will be no opposition from anyone, and it will be rubber stamped in a few days and off to the Senate. And this is as we don't even know the price tag of the recon. So says the House members. Not worried, but I'll explain to you in this recording. Sound a little confusing? It is. Then more student loan debt could be forgiven. That is as more programs are coming in and programs are coming out of that entire recon when it goes over to the Senate. All the latest details of this incredible recon that'll pay you on average about $15,000 across several clusters of many, many checks. Then the exciting details of fifth stimulus and also COLA raises. I have all those incredible details and more as we go into a big, bold, beautiful morning the day after a very tumultuous voting process last night. The President of the United States spoke to the American people minutes ago. I'll have his comments. It's all right here. It's all real live. And I have all your comments answered on air as I've been seeing them throughout the recordings this morning. It's a big morning because the toast is toasting, the butter is buttering, and the coffee is brewing. And your recon will get passed, so confirmed, in just a few days for the House. This is Mornings LALATE. The weather is good where you are. Well, a deal has been reached, which means that the recon will pass the House of Representatives in just a few days. I have the latest details on a very confusing series of events last night. It's confusing for even a viewer of this channel who's informed. And the vote will be happening in just a few days, even though they don't even know the price of the recon. Sounds strange? It is strange. I'll explain it to you. But the great news is that this recon will pay you on average about $15,000 across several clusters of checks and includes the same provisions that paid the viewers of this channel on average $45,000 from third stimulus. I'll go over all these incredible programs in this recon. Then we'll be turning over to some student loan debt forgiveness if we have time, the big exciting details of more debt being forgiven, and the offer from the president. Will the Democrats take it? Then fifth stimulus. And fifth stimulus will be coming right behind that COLA raise. We have all those incredible details and more as we go into a big live morning broadcast this weekend. And guess what? Unlike usual weekends, I expect to have a full slate of programming today throughout the day. So with that, subscribe. 400,000 subscribers, a YouTube record. The most comprehensive, the most accurate, the most in-depth, and the most talked about news coverage in America. This is LALATE, live in the morning and taped in the afternoons. Coming up next is Morning's Countdown. Morning's Crypto, live on air at 10 a.m. Then noontime at 11 a.m. as well. So subscribe. Also, like this video and consider becoming a member. Let's cut right into the details of what unfolded last night. Last night, there was supposed to be 2 votes, but they had 1 vote. And then they had an agreement with a vote. Sound weird? Let me give you a roadmap of what's happening in this video. First in this video, I'll be going over the programs that are heading over to the Senate now, slated to be passed in the House. After the commercial break, I'll be going over the dramatics of what happened with that vote last night, explain to you what that vote is in a few days from now. I'll explain to you what the vote with the Senate will look like, and we're going to go more over details of each of the programs and the eligibility. But let's first start with the recon. The recon was passed 3 weeks ago approximately in a Senate subcommittee, a House subcommittee, at a $3.5 trillion recon price. It's now been reduced. But across these clusters of checks, lots of them, you will qualify generally on average as a viewer of this channel to about $15,000 of those many, many different types of checks across these programs. When third stimulus became law, I said you can qualify for about $15,000. The average view of this channel from third stimulus has gotten upwards of $45,000 from third stimulus. The great news is that the same programs from third stimulus have now survived and are in the House program and now have been added with these additional rounds of other types of program checks that you will qualify for as well. Let's go over each of the three clusters and those three add-ons and see each of these checks. These are all in the House bill, so they're going to the finish line in the House, but make it modified on the Senate. And if I say hard cold cash, I mean it's an upfront check, literally check in your hand. And if I say back end, it means it's something you qualify for later on the back end. All right, here we go. Hazard pay got in there. That is that earned income tax credit for one more year back end. And then $4,000 of elder care got in there for at least 1 year back end. And also $4,000 of care for the young children. But they got in there front end, hard cold cash money to repair the homes if you're in a low income community. Wow, that is great news. Then they got $550 checks for those college students, hard cold cash for the Pell Grant. Right up front. Then the big surprise with the CTC one more year, the child tax credit, hard cold cash, $3,600 to $3,000. And then the big surprise that the money for the cars and trucks grew to $12,500 back end. That's $12,500 for the purchase price of an electric vehicle from a U.S. auto manufacturer, for 15% for the purchase price of a new electric bike. Let's go to the first add-on. As everything in the first cluster survived and actually grew, let's see if the first add-on got in there. And it did, but not at this price point. It's hard cold cash. It is the purchase price of your first home. Wow. The federal government will be giving you, somewhere during the escrow period, hard cold cash for the purchase price of your first home. This is big. Maxine Waters from Los Angeles here wanted it $25,000. It won't be $25,000. I'll be going over more about the details of this. I've seen some great questions from Ryan and Lynn Glenn. Keep your great questions coming. If I don't answer specifics about eligibility, send me a private message and I'll answer your questions on air. I love great questions with specifics about how to apply for them. So let's go to the second cluster of checks, and we're going to go over the status of them, and then I'm going to go back on over the numbers with you. Paid leave and family leave got in there. Then the household tax credit got in there. Pre-kindergarten got in there. Community college out. And then home repairs got in there to weatherize your home. Wow. So a lot of those checks are upfront checks. The weatherize your home, we don't know, but we believe it's upfront, but we're not certain. Definitely need it, especially if Joe Manchin comes with that Maserati and parks in the driveway. So the paid leave and the family leave, yeah, that is either contemporary or upfront checks. This is a lot of money, thousands of dollars. I'll be going over the calculation for you later in this video. The pre-kindergarten, that is a hard cold cash check. That's coming up later in this video. And the weatherize your home, believed to be upfront hard cold cash. Let's go to the second add-on. The second add-on is not hard cold cash. It is an eligibility issue, likely, and it is the coverage benefit free for you. If you're a senior or someone on disability, free home health care. Wow, this is huge. If you are a senior or a person on disability and you need in-home health care, it will now be covered free for you through Medicare. Bob Casey was looking at $250 billion. It's been reduced a little bit less. I'll have more about that later in this video, but it's a covered benefit, so it's totally free for you. Let's go to the third cluster of checks. Let's see which got in there, which see a hard cold cash, and let's see which are back-end items. Okay, free school meals for all got in there. This is hard cold cash, up to $65 a month per child per month when they're not in school. When they're in school, covered benefit. Cheaper prescription medication, not a check, but it got in there. Immigration form in there, not a check. Farmers, we don't know. The money for free internet, we don't know. The money for clean energy out, the money for workers, we don't know. And then the dental, vision, and hearing, let's go over all that, and the Medicare eligibility. That's a lot in there. I'm going to have a lot about that later in this video, so stay with me to the final 15 minutes of this video. First, dropping the Medicare eligibility age, we don't know. I don't think it got in there. Number two, the Medicare gap, those 12 Gap states, yes, they got in there. The health insurance, I'll explain that later in this video. The dental, vision, and hearing, they got the hearing in there. We do not know if it's a voucher, meaning hard cold cash, or if it's a covered benefit, but the dental and vision, Bernie's looking to get it in there. It was last a voucher, hard cold cash. Let's see what happens with that. Which brings us to the third add-on, and that third add-on is the MSC IRS monthly stimulus check. The likelihood of putting that in now rests in the hands of the Senate, because that is where this legislation is going. And if you haven't seen what's really happened in the last 7 days, let me explain, is that now the House members say, you senators, you have a lot to add, so you can go and add stuff. And you're going to see later in this video that we have Bernie Sanders, who nearly 80% of his stuff is still missing for the recon. Bernie Sanders is a chairman of the Senate Budget Committee. We have Ron Wyden and others saying, all my stuff is missing for the recon. I'm adding stuff in there. And that is where they could add a monthly IRS stimulus check. They will. Those senators, Democrats, represent to the viewers of this channel, whether it's Casey, Coons, Warren, Sanders, Schumer, they will add it in there on the Senate side. Two opportunities for them. One, which is manifesting itself more this week, which is a Senate subcommittee with a lot of legislation to be done on the Senate side. When the legislation lands in the Senate right out of the House, the question is, where does it go? Will it go into a Senate subcommittee? If it does, that helps you, because there's a lot of stuff they're now talking about adding and a lot of stuff they're talking about removing. And if that's the case, then that is where that issue could come into play. The other opportunity, of course, is the Senate Vote-O-Rama. The Senate Vote-O-Rama is a 2-day event. It's the final 2 days of the entire process. During those 2 days, they introduce amendments, and those amendments are usually groundbreaking. Here's an example. Earlier this year, during the Vote-O-Rama, Chuck Schumer and Liz Warren introduced an amendment. What was it? To make the forgiveness of student loan debt tax-free. Before that, it wasn't. So if your student loan debts have been forgiven of $50,000, you would immediately get a tax bill. You have to pay a check of $25,000 approximately to IRS. No longer the case, because they got it in there during Vote-O-Rama. Vote-O-Rama, historically a process in which a lot of things never talked about on the House side are added. So two opportunities across the board. As Jennifer said in the chat yesterday, have you called? You need now to focus on the House, on the senators. Coons, Casey, Warren, Sanders, Schumer, Wyden. Make that call to advocacy and say why you need it. Let's go over that important statement from the number one chief of staff for the number one guy in this recon on the Senate side. Let's read that message. They now have in total between congressional and senatorial offices received more contacts of advocacy from the LA Purple Power than the number of signatures in the American petition. Everyone's amazed by the outpouring of touching stories. Now they have a better understanding of what the average American is going through because of the LA viewer. They have heartbreaking stories for the LA viewers, and they have the voice of the people across the nation in LALATE, as you have become too loud to be ignored. Very, very kind. Let's read the last sentence on air together. That last sentence on air says, please continue your encouragement for the continued advocacy as the professional voice of the people you have become LA until this becomes law. Absolutely. Now is the time to step up and really advocate. Someone in the morning's countdown show said to someone else, have you advocated today? I love it. Remember, you can leave messages on the weekend. Voicemails are receiving messages on the weekend. In the second half of this video, everything you've been wondering. What the world went on last night? I'll explain why it's great. Because now the recon will be passed in the House. Passed? Yeah, it's literally almost etched in stone. So they say. I'll explain what happened with a very, very bizarre deal on the vote. The vote will happen. We have a potential deadline of the voting date, and we have a potential of the date, and we're not going to go beyond that date, and we'll pass the House. Even with the House not knowing the price tag? Sound weird? It is weird. I'll explain the details. It sounds really strange. That's what I'm here to make things clear. Programs in, programs out. We now know the programs that are into the recon for purposes of the House. When it goes to the Senate, get that knife and cleaver out. But get that pen or paper ready right now, that pen paper ready, because I'm going to show you the upwards of $15,000 across all these different programs, lots and lots of them, that you likely qualify for. Then student loan debt forgiveness, we'll be going over that as well. And then the big lift of this stimulus right behind COLA. We have all those details and more as the toast is toasting. As the morning's broadcast continues, I'll be back with you in 60 seconds to go over the dramatics and the president's message from minutes ago as morning's LALATE continues. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE. And the excitement continues live from Santa Monica as a deal has been reached with the recon. What was that deal? I'll explain the details coming up right now. And that is with a vote. We have a confirmed vote, and it will be basically a rubber stamp vote. There will be no opposition. How did they do this? I'll explain the details. The price is right, 1.75. No one knows. No one knows the darn price. Doesn't matter for purposes of the House. Very strange. I'll explain what's going on. Programs in, programs out. What's the latest across the board? Those details and more. Let's change surfers. Here we go, different server. And then we go over student loan debt. More debt can be forgiven. Whose debt? We all need some debt forgiven after last night's craziness. And then some fifth stimulus. Boy, we need that as well. Those details and more as we go into the continuation of Mornings LA with all the dramatics that explained from last night. And this is LA. So subscribe. 400,000 subscribers to YouTube record. I want you part of this incredible family. Hit that subscribe button right now. Like the video and consider becoming a member. Programming note, I will be with you with more shows today than usually on the weekends because there is so much happening to the extent. And if you have more questions, continue to deliver them. They are very helpful. Next, join me mornings, crypto live on air, and then noontime will be live at 11 a.m. So subscribe, like this video, and consider becoming a member. Let's go over all the dramatics that unfolded last night with me explaining to you what happened. It's a lot. It is really a lot to digest to see what went on last night. Even if you're a Purple Hawk, even if you're a member, you look at it and say, what was all that? So let me explain where we are. I'm going to bring it back a little bit of a notch in case you're a beginner or just found this channel. We have two bodies of legislation. One is roads and bridges, also called infrastructure. The other one is recon, also called the social spending plan. If that is not confusing enough, yesterday and today, the president referred to both of them with the same name, the Build Back Better programs. Oh, can we just keep the name separate for now? All right. The roads and bridges passed the Senate before, so it only needed a House vote going into last night. The recon, which is your money, the roads and bridges is not your money. The recon is your money, has not passed the Senate or the House. We went into last night with a lot of statements said when things are going to go vote for, when they're going to go for a vote, how they're going to go for a vote. I'll go over that more about that later in this video. But in one of the best strategy moves that only Nancy Pelosi can do, Nancy Pelosi got an absolutely incredible agreement last night. What did she do? She had a problem. She had the progressives saying, we're going to block the roads and bridges. And then we had the moderate Democrats saying, we're going to block the recon. What was the issue? The progressives said, you're going to never call the vote on the recon. and you're going to vote against the recon. The moderate Democrats said, we need to see a Congressional Budget Office report. And out of only what Nancy Pelosi could do, she got a deal, a big deal. The deal last night was that the progressives would vote in favor of the roads and bridges if the moderate Democrats signed, raised their hand, and voted in favor of the recon passing with a date, without any caveat, without any conditions. And she got that. Sounds strange? It really is strange. So what happened last night? The roads and bridges passed, and when signed by the president will be law and no longer really covered on this channel. The recon now has a date, a confirmation, and a rubber stamp set in place. What is it? The moderate Democrats voted and signed that they will pass and vote in favor of the recon after they receive a Congressional Budget Office report describing the cost of the recon, that's called CBO, and will not vote against the recon, whatever the CBO report says, and will do that no later than the week of November 15th. Let's digest that. That's a lot. So what did they say? We're going to vote in favor for the recon. Even if they get the report? Yeah. And if the report doesn't say stuff they don't like in it, they're still going to vote in favor of the recon? Yeah. Sound weird? Yeah. It's great. And guess what? Jalapal literally orchestrated most of it. She said, this is what we have to have, otherwise we're not doing this. And she got Gothenheimer and the moderate Democrats to raise their hand, sign the piece of paper, and look them right in the eye and saying, I will vote in favor of the recon, despite whatever the CBO report says. I just need the report. Wow. And with that, that means your recon will be rubber stamp passed by the House of Representatives in the next few days. There will be no opposition to it. It's done. If you're new to this channel, remember, a recon does not need a Republican vote. It's just the Democrats. So now all the Democrats will be passing the recon, guaranteed by vote of last night. As soon as they can get that congressional budget report done. Done. Your recon is done on the House side. By procedure, the formality of the final rubber stamping of the vote will be in a few days. We're done with the recon on the House side. So when will that vote happen? The wording last night and the wording repeated by the president this morning is no later than the week of November 15th. Let's read the quote, and then let me explain to you what the quote means. And if you remember this channel, I sent this out by alerts last night as soon as it happened. So you got this alert at almost 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time last night. The quote says, we moderate Democrats commit to voting in favor of the recon, aka the Build Back Better Act, in its current form other than technical changes, as expeditiously as we receive the congressional budget report, but no later than the week of November 15th. All right, done. So what does that mean? It means they're just waiting for the report to come in, and then then Nancy will call the vote. How long does it take for the report to be done? This is a big question. I've been talking about this report since early this week, and I do not know when they requested it. If they had requested when I first started covering this, which was, I think, Tuesday, 3 or 4 days ago, then it could be done this coming week. My prediction, and again, I'm using the word prediction, not guarantee. My prediction is the CBO report will be done this coming week if it was requested last week. And if that's the case, then get ready for 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, midnight, Thursday night. It's just Nancy's favorite hour to call votes, is it not? It's always Thursday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. And so if you get that CBO report before then, yeah, just take a nap Thursday. Get ready for the vote. So there you go. We are done on the House side, off to going to the Senate side as soon as that vote happens. Now, Price is Right. No one knows what the darn price is. This is where it don't make any sense, folks. I know it don't make any sense. The CBO report may likely say, probably will say, the recon is not 1.75. Told you so. It's 1.95 or 2 trillion. And then the report may also say the recon is not 100% paid for. The moderate Democrats have already said, I don't care. I'm voting in favor of the recon on that date. I'm going to make that very clear to you. You and I know, because of the recordings of this channel for over a week, these numbers don't line up. The recon, when it was at 1.75, did not have the two provisions added in this week. The programs added were paid leave, price tag $200 billion. That brings you to 1.95 added in there. The SALT cap, that price tag unknown, added in there. Cheaper prescription medication, price tag unknown. We're at least at $2 trillion. Then the other issue was yesterday I told you that a report came out from the Joint Committee on Taxation that said, no. The recon is only paid for at 1.45. You're missing $500 billion. If you watch the President of the United States address the American people about an hour ago, 2 hours ago today, this morning, he said the whole recon is paid for. Not according to your own report. It says $500 billion is not paid for. So if the CVO comes back and says the same thing, moderate Democrats have said, I don't care. We're voting in favor of it. You deal with it on the Senate side. And that is sort of the narrative of what's going on. There's problems at issue about numbers and calculations. They're leaving things for the Senate. So get that pen and paper ready. Here are the programs that are in for the House. The House will approve the following programs in a recon value somewhere around $2 trillion before it goes to the Senate, and then the meat cleavers come out, and the scissors and the tape and the Scotch tape and the screws and the bolts. All right, here we go. The provisions that have been added in this week, 3 of 3, which I told you were going to go in. I first told you that paid family leave and paid medical leave will go in there. Now, before we start, these recon provisions that are in this fourth stimulus are a lot. They're a lot. Everything that was in third stimulus is repeated in fourth stimulus. In third stimulus, viewers on average of the channel got about $45,000. If you remove SNAP, they got on average about $30,000, maybe a little bit less from third stimulus, from things like rent, utilities, mortgage assistance. All those provisions from third stimulus that the viewers of this channel have gotten tens of thousands of dollars from are repeated under fourth stimulus. And then more checks on top of that. So if you have done well as a viewer, as a Purple Hawk of this channel, under third stimulus, you're going to do really well under fourth stimulus. And the only people who don't get money from fourth stimulus are people who make a lot of money. This is not a channel that can help you since EIDL and PPP coverage. This is not a recon for people who make lots of money. All right, so let's go to paid leave. How much does it pay? A lot. Under third stimulus, paid leave was supposed to pay the following calculation: $70,000 or more per year, $1,400 a week; $70,000 a year, $1,700 a week. Split in half. $35,000 annual salary, that would be $800 a week. Split in half. $15,000 annual salary, that would be $400 a week. What is paid leave and how much is it in this recon? Paid leave will be 4 weeks. Whoa. 4 times $1,700? Yeah, that's $5,000. 4 weeks times $400, $500? Yeah, it's thousands of dollars for you. Upfront, hard, cold cash. What is it? It is huge. It is for anyone who has to stay home because of the birth of a new child or has to stay home because of illness due to a member of the household or themselves. Any type of illness, not COVID, just any illness. Think of this last year. Have you had to stay home from work because you got the flu? Or your son twists his ankle and needs to get an ankle brace, or you had to take your wife to a dental procedure for 2 days. You've had those events happen, and now it'll be a covered benefit. Who is eligible? This is a big win, folks. The eligibility is everyone. W-2, 1099s, all income levels, all type of works. So Uber Lyft driver who only makes $20,000 a year, your wife is giving birth, yep, that's you. A department store employee and you have to take your mom to chemotherapy, yes, that is you. All covered. It's huge. The second add-on that got in this week that I predicted would go on in is the SALT cap. I had very nice viewers on the morning's countdown this morning's show. Boy, was there a lot of people on that show. And one person saying, can you explain the SALT a little bit slower? Yes. SALT is the following. When you go to pay your state tax return and you pay taxes, you pay some amount. Then when you go to pay your IRS tax return, you can deduct the amount you pay on your state taxes only up to $10,000 per the Trump tax code reform of 2017. The SALT agreement that Gothenheimer and the moderate Democrats got in there is now you can deduct up to $72,500 on your IRS tax return for what you paid on state tax returns that year. This is big in states that have a lot of taxes, like New York, California, and New Jersey. Then the third provision that got in there, of course, this week is prescription medication. More about that in a second. But let's go over some of the other items across the board. And we have a lot of the programs I'm going to go over in little sections in this video. So we just went over the paid leave, $200 billion. They got in there also the hearing care for seniors. We do not know if this is going to be a check or a covered benefit. Is it a voucher, or do they say just go pick it up from the pharmacy, it's covered? I think it's the second one. Just go pick it up from the pharmacy, it's covered. Then we got $40 billion of job training. Yes, they will provide free job training for you. Okay, here comes that Medicaid gap. This is one of those confusing provisions. Currently, Obamacare has become a law, and it's across all the countries, all the states of this country. The problem is the Republican governor states, 12 of them, do not want to pay for Obamacare, but are offering it for its citizens. There's a problem. They call that the 12 holdout states. So the wonderful Raphael Warnock from Georgia and Jim Claiborne from the Carolinas got an agreement in there that says they will offer to citizens of those 12 holdout Republican states subsidized private insurance for low-income people at a very, very cheap rate, so you can get health insurance very, very cheap in those holdout states. Wow. Immigration reform is in there. I want to address this question because a lot of people are asking about it. So there's a series of very, very false news out there. It started with Fox News. What's going on? During the Trump administration, immigrants at the border were separated from the family. There were about 4,000 of them that this happened for them. Then lawsuits were filed. How many lawsuits are currently in court? They estimate there's about 900 lawsuits in court filed by the ACLU against the president. Those lawsuits are heading to potentially settlement. In those lawsuit settlements, they're asking for $400,000. President Biden has addressed the number and said, I'm not paying $400,000, but I will settle it. If those settlements occur for those 800, 900 people, is that in the recon? No. Is it in the infrastructure? No. Is it in any bill? No. It's something that has nothing to do with you, and it's not every immigrant. It's 900 people in a lawsuit in a court of law. Very, very bad Fox News story that has sort of grown leaps and bounds. All right, here else. Housing care, $150 billion, and this is for a lot of stuff. When we look at third stimulus, the rent, the utilities, and also the mortgage assistance, city, county, and state, they're all offering it. You do not have to be out behind on a bill. Several people have repeated that fake narrative since 2020. Every city and county state has their own eligibility. You got 6 different places featured on this channel. You do not have to be behind on the bill, and you can get multiple rounds of it, as viewers have in the third stimulus. But look at this. Third stimulus had $47 billion for it, and the average viewer of this channel got about $20,000, $30,000 for rent over 1 or 2 rounds or utilities and mortgage assistance. This time around, it's not $47 billion. It's $150 billion. Whoa. That's the start. That's hard cold cash. That's in your hand. Then what's on top of that is the home repairs in low-income community. And on top of that, the money for the first purchase price of your new home. Ryan asked a great question on Morning's Countdown this morning, saying, what if I want to buy a trailer, like a mobile home house? Is that covered? I believe it is. This is why I'm here. As soon as it becomes law, we go through the wording. We look at the wording. I don't have all the wording. And guess what? Even if the wording was in the House bill, the senators can change the wording. I think by the way they're looking at this, it would include that as well. So yes, absolutely. Lynn, Glenn, and Ryan has had great questions. If you have similar questions like that or the SALT or things like that, send it me on private message. I'll feature it on live on air. That's my purpose here on this channel. Then the in-home health care for the seniors with disabilities, likely a covered benefit. Here comes a check, $550 hard cold cash check to my college students for the Pell Grant. You're going to get a check for that. Then when we look at the climate and we said $550 billion, that's all for construction? No. So the big surprise is that currently, if you went to go out and buy an electric vehicle today, you would get a credit of $7,500 at some point for the purchase of that new electric vehicle. Under this recon, it's growing to $12,500 as a back-end credit, for the purchase of electric vehicle in a union shop. That means GM or Chrysler. And yesterday someone said, but what about Chevy? I said, Chevy's GM. This is not the car channel, but I can make it the car channel if you wish. There we go. Then $65 a month hard cold cash check per student that is at home from school during the non-school months. And then when they're in school, they will get money for those meals. All right, let's go to the third add-on that happened this week, and it's a cheaper prescription medication. Boy, this was a big win. And if you're a senior, you're on Medicare. And if you're on Medicare, you know how much prescription medication costs are. No longer going to be the future. If you're a senior, you have to celebrate this because this is the biggest win of this entire recon. Let's go over what has happened. 20 years ago, during the charter establishment of Medicare, the writing of Medicare said they have to pay whatever the pharmaceutical companies ask them to pay. So if Big Pharma says, I want $1,000 for this prescription, they have to pay it. And if you don't want it, then you don't pay for it and you don't get the treatment. For 20 years, this was the law of the land. And over those 20 years, nearly 15 lobbyists per year were trying to block any change of the law. Every year, Congress tried to fix this, and now they got it done. Who did this, and who should take credit, and who did not get the credit for it? The person who got credit for it, Joe Biden. Did he get credit for it? No. Who's to blame? His press team. That Wednesday night, he did the biggest win of this recon, and it got no coverage because they were talking about the climate overseas. I need to fire that whole press corps in the White House. What did he do? He picked up the phone and he called Kristen Sinema, the biggest holdout for this issue. Over the months, she held out and blocked it and said, no, I'm not going to do it. He finally called Wednesday night. Kristen Sinema said, you need to do it. Not this Wednesday, the Wednesday before that. And he got it himself done. Since that night, Kristen Sinema is blessing this provision and blessing the entire recon. There is no longer any opposition to the recon by Kristen Sinema. Wow, all Joe Biden's doing. So what is this? It's about 28 medications by the year 2028 that will be super, super cheaper. This is not the $10 medication. This is the most expensive medication for the biggest issues as a senior you confront. It's going to start with about 20 medications initially and then ramp up with more medications over the next few years. They cannot raise the prices more than the cost of inflation, which is how fiscal stimulus a lot of these programs are going. Medicare will negotiate the price and get you a cheap price. This is arthritis and cancer medication. Insulin, for example, insulin, which if you're a viewer that's on insulin right now, can you send me a private message, tell me what you're paying on Medicare? But the reports are saying it was hundreds of thousands of dollars per prescription. It'll be $35 a prescription for insulin as your copay. It's huge. And it's just starting because Chuck Schumer says we're going to do this again next year and do it even better. They're going to come back and keep on making it better than the prior year. Ron Wyden said for the first time, government no longer have its hands tied behind its back because now they're getting these provisions in there. Kristen Sinema praised it. Dick Durbin praised it. Here come the statement from Scott Peters said it's really good for seniors. Lobbyists were just everywhere. And Representative Jan Skowkowski of Illinois says, we're just shocked we got this done with all these lobbyists. Ron Wyden said it's game-changing. So there you go. The next question is, what is next? One of the only things I think I got wrong this week was saying that the parliamentarian may rule on those two provisions this week. Not quite clear why she didn't. Either she was not presented the recon yet or she's still working on it. What are the two provisions the Senate parliamentarian, is going to rule on in the fate of the recon? They are immigration reform and paid leave. What is my prediction? Again, my prediction only. My prediction is immigration reform will come out. Why? Because she has ruled previously that it cannot go by recon. Second, paid leave. I don't know. 50% of people say paid leave will come out. 50% says it will survive. We will see. And remember, if it comes out, the money stays in there and can be reallocated to something else like us. Paid leave is $200 billion, and immigration reform is not free at all. Even though it's not a check, it's not free. So the next question is, what next? What's important to understand is that while you have a recon that is going for a vote in the House in the next few days and has a very amorphic price tag at the moment that no one really knows, The senators are where it all next rests. The senators going into the last 10 days said, we got a lot of work to do. Going into this weekend, the same thing. In fact, all of Bernie Sanders' provisions that he said were a big gap are still a big gap. Well, most of them are still missing. So let's go over what their comments are and why these comments are still at issue. Bernie Sanders says the best bill since the 1960s, but there's some major gaps. When asked, are you going to add provisions back in there? Are you going to add provisions in there? Absolutely. It's unconscionable that we do not have dental and vision in there. Ron Wyden, senator, Democrat, says absolutely. There's a significant amount to do. Chris Coons says, of course, there can be changes. Jalapal, AOC, all confirmed they got messages this week talking about Debbie Stabenow, who's a senator, says changes are coming, and so does Senator Chris Murphy. So what are the provisions that are going to be added in there? First, let's go over the provisions that are in there. Get that pen paper ready. We're going to go more over some calculations and some numbers, and then we're going to go over the provisions being added across the board. All right, here's some more checks. I'm going to explain to you which are hard cold cash checks and which are back-end checks. Hard cold cash check, pre-kindergarten, 1 year for 3 to 4 year olds. Then the CTC, 1 more year of this hard cold cash check. That's $3,600 approximately. Eligibility, very unclear. My notes show $60,000 per household. One viewer yesterday said, is that per person or the married couple? Unclear. I show it per household. So the household is a single parent, that's a household. If the household is a married couple, that's the household. I showed it 60. Then I show them to try to get to 110. I do not show this 150 in some literature being circulated. The earned income tax credit for 1 more year back end. Home health care, likely a covered benefit. This is for the home health care for the seniors and the work and the persons on disabilities. Hearing services, the hearing aid. Unclear whether it's a voucher or covered benefit. It could be either or. Then comes some hard cold cash checks. The rent, the construction, rehab, and improvement of low-income homes, and then the purchase price of your first home as well. Hard cold cash, $550 check to the college students for the Pell Grant. Hard cold cash check, $65 per student when they're home from school, and then when they're in school, paid for. So what would be added on the Senate side? And while the price tag may not be right, 1.75, it's going to go higher because these provisions are being added. Bernie Sanders says that it is unconscionable that teeth and dental is not in there. So let's go over the calculation for this. The last time teeth and dental were in the recon, they were hard cold cash items. Let's go over what this is. First of all, we do not know if the Medicare eligibility age has been dropped. I believe it's not. Bernie may still fight to put that in there. It's currently at 65. He wants it at 55. And then Bob Casey wants it at 60. But the dental, vision, and hearing, of those, the hearing is in there, but not the dental and the vision. Do I think it's going to stay that way? No way. I can't see this ever not going into the recon. I mean, I've seen crazier things, but I can't see neither of these going to the recon. Let's go over each of them. First, the dental. The last time it was on the recon on the House side, it was hard cold cash. It was a voucher. It was $850 per year, people on Medicare. So how does this work? $850 doesn't cover procedures. It's not enough money, but it certainly covers a cleaning and basic, maintenance. Sanders wanted more. He originally wanted 10 years, then 3 years as covered benefits. The vision is just wacko that it's not included. Vision is so simple, so cheap, so easy to put in there. I don't see why someone would be opposed to vision. Eye exam and a pair of glasses per year, what Bernie's talking about. Eye exam, let's say $50. Let's say glasses, $100. That's $150 a year. Very, very simple. Put it in there, done. This is why the battleground for these provisions on the Senate side remain so amorphic and so important across the board. What's important to understand is the chairman of the Senate Budget Committee, Bernie Sanders, receives the bill from the House. It's very fascinating to see what happens the next day after the House bill is passed in the House. After this done in the House, and they send it over to the Senate. It's very interesting to see if it goes right into a subcommittee of the Senate Budget Committee. You really want it to, because there's a lot of provisions in this recon. And while paid leave may come out from the Senate parliamentarian, or for Joe Manchin, and immigration reform may come out from the Senate parliamentarian. It's unlikely the provisions will be gutted out just yet. It's very likely the provisions will be added in there. That is really where you want it to go into subcommittees, because that is where they can add a lot of stuff across the board. Finally, let's go over some more of my notes of stuff that doesn't really line up. Again, for child tax credit, I show it $60,000 or less for the housing aid, 175. It's great. In-home healthcare, 100, 200, and then health insurance. They got more weeks of that, and then the child care. 450 billion. Let's go over student loan debt very quickly and COLA, and then we'll be cutting over to my final commentary. Student loan debt, more debt could be forgiven, $10,000 across the board the president has offered by executive order. Democrats should take it. He's already forgiven 1, 2, 3 rounds. First, people who became disabled after graduation, then nonprofit, and then public sector workers 10 years after graduation. Democrats should take it. Then finally, fifth stimulus. The fifth stimulus excitement is coming right around the corner. Your letter, if you haven't received it, is coming. It says your benefits are going up January 1, 5.9%. But get ready for fifth stimulus, because that comes right after that. Fifth stimulus looks to raise your benefits up one big time thereafter, and then apply a new benchmark. The new benchmark is inflation. That new benchmark of inflation is tracking what I had said. I said it's going to be 2 to 3% next December 2022. That's what Jay Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve, said last week. And if that's the case, you'll get this raise up in January, then a big raise up on the fifth stimulus, and then another raise up based upon that benchmark next year. Finally, my commentary. Wow, what a night it was. What a confusing night it was. And even for the most advanced viewers, it may have been confusing for you as well. I hope this video was helpful for you. Throughout the day, I'll be doing more programming than usual on a weekend because I want you to be informed. Continue to send me those great messages. What is this? How does this work? How do I get this? Obviously, I understand it's not law yet, but if the questions explaining what things are, absolutely keep on bringing them. I love those questions. I love the focus from viewers across the board to get these sums of money. It's important at a time like this that we be careful with particular words. And I see some people using words more on social media like promised or predicted or said. Those words mean different things across the board. One person sent a message that said, I was promised $10,000 of hazard pay in 2020. No. Let's go over. In 2020, the HEROES Act was passed by the House of Representatives. It had $10,000 of hazard pay in it. It was a bill passed by only one body of Congress, the House. It then went to the Senate, led by Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell threw in the wastebasket. Dead. Gone. So was it promised to you? No. It was attempted to be provided to you, but it never became law. And so that word promise doesn't make any sense in the sentence. Predicted. Everyone has a prediction about something. I mean, there's Las Vegas predicting everything by the moment. But when what is said across the board or represented by legislators, they say things, but sometimes they can't do it because there's someone else who doesn't want to let them do it. Going into last night, you understood that the progressives said, we will never allow the roads and bridges to go for a vote first. But there was a problem. The moderate Democrats were going to vote against the recon and end the recon for good. It would be gone, done. So that's a problem. You have to pivot as a progressive and figure out something else. We had the representation that things were going to go for a vote a certain way in a certain hour, in a certain time. They had to make concessions because when you have hundreds of House members, not everyone can come to the same agreement on everything. And while they say something, it's often not particularly can be delivered. For example, the President of the United States addressed the American people this morning and said two things which are actually inaccurate. He first said that the entire recon is 100% paid for. And he says, I promised or I represent that the recon is 100% paid for. It's not 100% paid for. If you read the new taxation report, it's only there's $500 billion of it not paid for. So maybe he needs to pivot. Maybe they need to reassess the numbers. Maybe they need to modify it, and then it is 100% paid for. He also said that he would not be raising the taxes of individuals who make less than $400,000 per year. That's true, but when you look at what he wants to do for married couples, that's two people, 800,000, it doesn't actually line up the number. So things are slightly different. When you use words like promised, predicted, said, or represented, It means a lot of different things, so be careful with the words. Remember, I'm a reporter. I'm here in Los Angeles. It's Los Angeles. I'm here in Santa Monica. I'm reporting what they say. If they do not deliver what they say, then they do not deliver what they say. That's not me. If they call the vote on the roads and bridges before the recon, and they said they weren't going to do it, that's what they did. I didn't do it. If they say to thousands of viewers of this channel over many weeks, they're inserting a monthly IRS stimulus check on one side or one place, and they don't do it, they don't do it. That's not my prediction. That's not my promise. That's what they are doing. You saw last night, you saw this morning that a lot of things they said they wanted to do, they couldn't do because there was someone else right next to them and said, no, I'm not going to let you do it. So they had to pivot across the board. You could have Casey, Coons, Sanders, Schumer, Warren all saying they want to give you something. And they can literally put it in a piece of paper and call for a vote and say, I want to give this to that viewer. It only takes one other person to say, no, I'm not going to let you do it. And then it doesn't happen. Who's to blame? The guy who voted against it. That's the person to blame. So we see last night how things were pivoting across the board. Remember, this is a great recon. The recon is really great across the board. If you've been a viewer of this channel since third stimulus, you have seen the ability to get big sums of money from third stimulus. If you haven't, then you need to and use the videos of this channel. And that money from third stimulus, boy, it's being repeated in fourth stimulus. And that's not all that's in fourth stimulus. It has all those other checks that are front end and back end in there as well. For people who ask, like Ryan, can I get this money for the first time home purchase if it's a mobile home? That's the type of questions I want. That's the type of questions I want. I want to answer that question so you're focused and you're ready to pounce as a purple hawk, and get that money before anyone else and know how to get it and how to apply for it, and how to get that money. So when you turn the key on your door and you walk into that mobile home, if it's a covered item under this recon, you got it because you watched this channel. And that is this morning's broadcast. Join me next on Morning's Crypto coming up in 10 minutes on live on air from Santa Monica. That's at 10 a.m. The latest on what's going on with crypto, a special Saturday broadcast. Then I'm back with you at 11 a.m. noontime live on air. And with that, subscribe. 400,000 subscribers, a YouTube record. I want you part of this incredible family. Hit that subscribe button right now. Like this video, 2,000-3,000 likes, and consider becoming a member. Stay with me all day long with new shows all day long. At noontime, mornings crypto, afternoons at 3, and evenings LA. Stay informed, stay focused, have a beautiful morning because the toast is toasting and the butter is buttering, but the bacon is still missing. And this is LA.